screenshot, and then I'm gonna send that to you so you can see what it looks like.
Okay.
Just one sec. One sec. Where is my WhatsApp? Pa, 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 pa. Yeah, so we're gonna make this a kind of serious thing, because we don't want to miss Sally, and we're gonna make it a kind of serious thing, and then we touched some areas today, and when she's available to join, we continue the conversation. You agree with me that the conversation never ends?
Well, a conversation needs to be had.
No, no, it never ends.
It never ends. Oh, absolutely. It never ends. And especially, if you take your time to actually go through the information here, my mind is blown once again. Once again, it's like, okay, this is just the spark that I needed.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Okay, so yeah, so but for those that are able to tune in and join synchronously, welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to EasyDigi. This is a fireside chat. We just want to have this conversation. We discovered that there are a number of issues that are being ignored, that are being neglected, issues that should really come to the spotlight, but then they are not in the spotlight. Some of these issues are being neglected, and we feel like it's something we should really be talking about. The African education system should be talking about this, and that's what we're here. Right? It's a knowledge economy. We want to reveal certain things that should be popular. Teresa, you agree with me that these things we're talking about should be popular, right? It shouldn't be just that a few people know about it, right? What do you think?
I absolutely agree. I think that if you take a look at where exactly the focus lies right now and where the focus should lie, there are so many things that we need to be paying attention to. There's so many conversations that we need to normalize. There are so many things that we actually have to highlight, especially with our young people, so that there's a greater awareness, and so that we can move towards a situation where it actually makes sense to be educated in these topics, so that we can make an impact. So I think if we want to move towards a more meaningful education, then these conversations are important to have. Um,
Yeah,
I think that, to me, the fact that you've called it a fireside conversation is like, this is not a comfortable, let's sit by the fire and have a chat kind of a conversation. This is
yeah,
you starting fires. You start fires. And
yeah.
I
Thank
think
you.
that it is important that these fires are lit, because if
Mm,
we get left behind, we are in danger. We are in danger as a
yeah.
society. We are in danger as a country. We are in
Mm,
danger as the African continent. We are in danger
mm,
as the world, because it's no longer about a single entity.
yeah.
It's about going wider, going bigger. The globalized
Mm.
threat that we are experiencing makes us part of that. So we cannot isolate ourselves from that.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, Teresa. We cannot isolate ourselves from that. Um, I see a generation of young people. By the way, if you connected to this conversation, well, of course, it might look kind of informal, but then we're going somewhere. We're going to touch on the Globalx Report shortly, but then we're just trying to do some introduction stuff, right? I've missed Teresa for some time, so I mean that we have to have some time to really dig out some things. Yeah, so I see a generation of young people. In Africa that is about to be left behind. I see a
Yes.
generation of them that's about to be left behind. Um, every time there's an advancement in technology, every time, yeah, let me just talk about technology. Every time there's an advancement in technology, it causes a divide that puts some people on a good side and a whole bunch of people on the bad side. And the more the advancement keeps increasing, the more it looks like some people are on the good side because they can leverage on the advancement, gives them a lot of opportunity. gives them a lot of income and many factors and many things. And then there are millions of people somewhere in one place who are not able to maximize, right? And that's why we see that right now the African education system has to be redesigned to catch up with the trends, has to be redesigned. We don't just want to be busy. We don't want to be doing school anymore. We don't want to be busy like the joy and the glory of, oh, I'm going to school. My child is going to school. Is going to school in the morning and coming back in the evening, and we don't want to just keep doing all of this. We want to really be sure that whatever that is providing, whatever that
Mhm.
is whatever is coming from that is tangible, is meets the current demand, right? Can really fit into what is obtainable in the global landscape, in the global village. We really want to be very intentional about this right now. We are that generation of Africans that is saying no more, no more, no more. If we're going to have an education sector, we need to have an education that really puts us, the coming generation, in a place where they can compete globally, where they have everything they need. And and that would take
Absolutely.
me, yeah, I know when I say that you want to say something, I should allow you speak.
No, no, no. Continue. I'm listening.
Yeah, yeah. And that would take me to the Globalx report, right? So when of course, I follow the World Economic Forum at EAZY-DIGI. The World Economic Forum is one of our strong research sources. We pay attention to what they are saying every now and then, and when they came up with this report early this year, and I saw the number of issues that were being raised, and right deep in my mind, I was like, how are we getting set for this as Africans? How, and when I thought about that, the next thing that that just came to my mind is the education system. If
Correct.
all of the risks that this report is presenting, if we are going to be in a place as Africans where we can, go over it, where we can overcome it, then the hope of that is our education system, and narrowing it
Correct.
down to K to 12 in Africa. If the coming generation is going to be able to cope with that, then K to 12 is the hope. Let me hand over to you, Teresa.
I do agree with you. I do think that, we need to move away from the idea that education should involve unfolding or unpacking curriculum and measuring that against a certain kind of assessment and using that assessment to get into whatever institution we want to eventually come out with a piece of paper that qualifies us to apply for a certain job, and then we've got it made. I think we definitely need to let go of that idea completely, because the kind of risks that this report highlights are risks that absolutely move into all facets of our society. And I want us to highlight the fact that risk, it's a serious word. Risk means that something bad could happen. And that
Hmm.
is why we want to highlight this, because maybe we're not even aware of the risk that we are facing because we are just blissfully continuing with our lives.
Hmm.
So it's up to forward thinkers and firelighters like yourself that
Hmm.
highlight these things so that we can create the awareness, so that we can build up towards making sure that if there is a risk, we need to start working at mitigation, because if there's a risk, I'm sure we can stop it.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I agree with you, absolutely. And a number of them, and that's why right now we're saying that every school, K to 12, every school in fact, the whole essence of K to 12 education in Africa has to be aligned with every of these things. Even before the report came out, a number of things are happening, and I just keep seeing that the gap between school and reality in Africa, in so many places, but we're talking about Africa now, the gap between
Mhm.
school and reality is so wide, so wide, so wide. And that's why people pass through the system, and then even after coming out of the system, they still do not feel sufficiently empowered to thrive, right? Which really means that the system has not been able to actually give them what they need. I'll tell you of a boy
Mhm.
I met. He's gonna be attending the conference we have in April, the K to 12 2030 conference. So his name is
Awesome.
Kainaja. His name is Kainaja. So he's a Nigerian. He's a Nigerian of descent, and so he is 15 years old, maybe going to 16 now. But last I know he's 15 years old, and this young boy is going to be writing WAEC this year. So for West African countries, there's this exam called WAEC. So it's
Mm-hmm.
like the exam they do at the end of K to 12. So after the 12th year, they take that exam and just to go ahead then and take one exam that allows them to enter the university. So that exam is there. So he's going to be writing that exam this year. I'm sure he's preparing for it right now. But Kainaja, as we speak, is the founder of a company, of a tech company like I met him on LinkedIn. He's the founder of a tech company, and we're talking. He was telling me about how he got some millions of dollars of grants for his company, and so while he was saying that, I looked at him. You are you are a young boy of 15 years old, and I just thought about myself when I was 15 years old, and when I was in school. What was I thinking about? The only thing I was thinking, I tell you, the only thing I was thinking about is how to just pass and do well in that WAEC, right? The WAEC, how I would just do well in the WAEC was the pool, the whole energy and everything. But here's a young boy I see
Mm-hmm.
who has had a learning experience that has transcended beyond what WAEC says a young boy of his age should know, right? And this is why I see education now becoming a limitation. Like that's crazy. So if we have an education system that is designed in a way that it blocks young people from accessing some realities, even that is obtainable, knowledge, information, skills that is obtainable, because the system says this is what you should know. The system says this is what you should know, whereas there are a whole lot. In fact, I see that there's an acceleration factor, right? So what it takes, and that's why you see that what a young boy of 6, 7, 8 years can do in some places, right, is what an adult in a so-called university is just learning in the first year, right? I see that there's a disruption largely that we need to align with in Africa, right? If we're going to put the coming generation, young minds, in a place where they really have what they need to really thrive in the global landscape. What do you say, Teresa?
That is the kind of disruption that we need. And I think that the sooner we get to the point where we realize that we are not saying that the education system is failing, we are not saying that the education system is not valid, we are not saying that what we are currently doing in the education corps has no value. We
Mm,
are saying we need to take exactly what we are doing and we need to align it with
yeah.
things like the sustainable goals that are set out by the
Mm,
WHO. We need to take a look at the risks that have been identified by this particular forum so that we can take a look at how can we leverage what we have with where we need to be. Because I agree with you, like, why are we going to hold back a 15-year-old who has the potential to come up with a startup that is going to have impact with a minor little thing like an exam that has to give him a piece of paper that says that he's completed 12 years of
yeah.
school.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is I'm not saying that there is no value in what we are doing. I'm saying that we need to redesign how this happens
Yeah.
and what this looks like. So I think one of the things that you and I constantly talk about is the assessment and how the assessment is supposed to evaluate what you are capable of and how that
Mm,
absolutely does not necessarily send you in the direction that you have competencies in. So
mm,
we would like to see like an education system that results in a portfolio of evidence of a learner's competencies and skills that will allow him to move into a field where he has an impact or she has an impact. And
mm,
I think that is what we are hinting at. And
yeah.
I think that is where the transformation needs to take place so that we don't just stick to the old method of doing things where we have curriculum, we have standards of the curriculum, and we have the assessments that are based on those standards. That whole pattern, to me,
Yeah.
that needs to change.
Yeah. That definitely. Thank you, Teresa. That definitely needs to change. I mean, it really, really needs to change. It really needs to change, and that's why we're having this conversation. So we're going to jump on that document and see. a number of things that that have been identified in the Globalx report and what it means for K to 12 in Africa. And now we can begin to look at redesigning what we call our education today to really match up with these things. Um, Let me know. Okay, okay. I want to share my screen. I
Yeah.
just want to confirm that. Just want to confirm that you can see my screen right now. Just one moment. Uh, um, can you see my screen?
I think the device that I am using is not enabling me to do that.
Okay, okay, okay. Never mind. Um, Never mind. So I am still okay. So here's what I'm going to do. Pa pa para pa 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 pa. Okay. Okay. So I'm now, and the Global Risk Report 2022. This is seventh edition insight report. Okay. So there are basically five things that this report highlights, and I'm going to jump on. Yeah, so here is the page as so there's a here's what I would do just to make this very easy. I want to keep seeing you. So five things. The first one is the disorderly climate transition. The second one is the digital dependencies and cyber vulnerabilities. And the third one is the barriers to migration. The fifth one is crowding and competition in space. And the sixth one is refreshing resilience. So we have disorderly climate transition, and then
Okay,
we
hold
also
on. I've lost you there for a minute.
okay, okay, okay. So how about now? Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, great. So I said we have five things. We have the report talks about disorderly climate transition, talks about digital dependencies and cyber vulnerabilities. It talks about barriers to migration, talks about crowding and competition in space, and finally, the report talks about refreshing resilience. Right. Let me confirm that you heard me.
Right?
Okay, great. So let's jump on the first two. The first one talks about disorderly climate transition, and yeah, disorderly climate transition. I'm going to stop sharing my screen so I can see you. So good. I think we're back. Disorderly climate transition. Yeah, we're back on the screen. So I'm going to put that up. Just one moment. Yeah, climate. Disorderly climate transition. Hey, so I was speaking with a school owner a few days, and she was mentioning the weather and the impact of the weather and all of that, and what that looks like for us these days. Um, how the how we really cannot tell. There used to be a time where we have this thing called uh, for now, as much as I know in Africa and Nigeria, we can tell that this period is the rainy season, this period is going to be sun, it's going to be that, but that's no longer obtainable. That no longer happens right now. Um, that no longer happens right now. So we see it
Yeah,
raining when
yeah, yeah. It's
we see
unpredictable.
it's unpredictable, total
Correct.
unpredictable. We see it raining when it shouldn't be raining, and all of that. So now, Teresa, this first trick is talking about climate. It's talking about the climate and what can be the impact of the climate. Kyle Wagner is a PBL expert, and he's going to be on the conference too in April. And while we were discussing, sorry, no, I just saw one of his posts on LinkedIn, and I saw him mentioning about some kids who intercepted him one morning while he was like, just jogging or something. They intercepted him and like, hello, sir, do you have a minute? And he said, yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, so and we'd like to tell you about the climate and we'd like to let you know what you need to do so that we can have the best climate even here. So he was excited that, yeah, is this what they asked you to do in school? Because that's in school, then that's interesting. They are training you to really add value to the society, right? Now, I just wanted to talk about that. But let's talk about this and what it means for our education system in Africa. Could it be that there are so many things we're doing right now, right, that is putting our climate in not the best place? And why is it that it is not a big deal? Why is it that it is not a serious topic, or something that our education is strongly focusing on? Why is it that our young minds are not being educated strong enough, right, to be able to go out into the society and create that level of influence based on how informed they are on how we can begin to do something about the climate in our various societies and communities? What do you think, Teresa?
I think that not enough is being done. I would change it to say that not enough is being done, and our approach maybe needs to change. So if we are able to highlight something exactly like this, the risks that have been identified, and if we speak about the climate, we need to take a look at what the impact is of what we are doing as human beings and how that is putting us as human beings at risk. Um, Now, we know that for this particular section, the COP26 was the guiding document, and there was representation from countries from all over the world. And when they got together to take a look at what exactly it is that we are facing globally, countries also pledged to make that change, to start to do things that would actually create that change. And I think one of the things that we now are responsible for as educators is we need to teach towards exactly what has been highlighted. And if
Hmm.
we can change how we do this into not just having an ordinary geography lesson, but actually to take a look at how can we use the information that we have to solve the problem that we have identified.
Yeah.
So we understand stream thinking, we understand design thinking, and it's such a pity that Sally isn't with us right now because she would bring that dimension in.
Yeah, yeah.
Exactly. So as a school, as an education corps, as forward thinking global citizens, we
Hmm.
need to now come up with not only unfolding knowledge, not only getting facts out there, we need to get learners to look at what it is that we need to know so that we can use that and come up with how can we use this to solve the problems that are being identified as risk. um, Fossil fuels, I think that's one of the big ones. How do we phase out the use of fossil fuels?
Hmm.
um, I've made some notes here. 46 countries indicated that they are going to pledge to move from coal to clean power by the year 2040.
Wow. Wow.
104 countries have pledged to cut down the methane emissions by 2030. And as we know, that accounts for about 30% of the global warming as it is. And
Hmm.
then 141 countries have also pledged to end deforestation.
Hmm.
So, fossil fuels, clean power, methane emissions, and then deforestation. Those are four topics that are, it's not that we're not teaching this, we are
Hmm.
highlighting this as part of our curriculum. But I
Yeah.
think what do we need to do now? We need to teach towards what are alternatives to fossil fuels. How do we enhance, how do we innovate clean power? We need to take a look at how do we reduce methane? How do we address deforestation, if you get what I mean? So instead of just saying these are the facts, this is what you need to know, this is what you need to study for your exam, we need to
Yeah.
move to, okay guys, these are the problems, what are our solutions, what are our options?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Teresa, for those numbers, for those statistics. Thank you so much. I see that we need to we need to we need to redefine what a problem is, right?
Yeah.
Because I always say that we need to move from paper problems to real problems,
Yeah.
right? Because in K to 12, there's a lot of paper, kids write pen, paper, do all of those things. There has to be a translation. If what we're doing on paper is solving real problems, that makes a lot of sense, right?
Yeah.
But we can't all the paperwork can be all about things that are not connected to the society, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we're seeing that right now, there has to be a lot of problem based and a lot of project based learning. Fact, right now in Africa, we need to consider problem-based learning, the two PBLs, problem-based learning and project-based learning. Because when you started mentioning the word problem, yeah, that turned on something. Because
Yeah.
right now in K to 12, what we call problem it's not really problem. It's not a problem. Because I mean, how to solve a differential calculus? That's not a problem, right?
Yeah.
You can say for a child, okay, that might be that might be a problem, but is that really a problem? I mean, the child can really learn how to do that in so many ways, and that's going to happen, right? If a child is not understanding something, there's a technology, there's a methodology and other things that could be in place to help the child to really get into that. But then there is a bigger problem here. There is a risk, there's a serious problem that we need to look at and how to solve. And that's why we don't just want to define problem in the K to 12 landscape anymore as things that have to do with core academics, right? We really want to bring in the real definition of a problem into the school, right? So that the young minds can begin to understand that this is a world they are connected to, and they are
Yeah.
not too young. They are not too young to contribute to that world. That's what we're trying to say, that they are part of a
Correct.
big world, and they are really not too young to begin to start contribute. It's not too early, it's not too early to start discussing problems. Let me tell you this, Teresa. I had an interview with some kids. Sally, so Destination Imagination, they work with some kids in Botswana. So I heard about some of the projects we were working on, and so I took interest. I was like, I'd like to interview these kids. The kids were so excited that wow, an organization is coming to interview them. Is really interested in what they are doing big time. They were so excited. So they joined. In fact, I would have loved to like play some of the videos online right now, but I could drop the link in the chat box for those that are joining us. So in one of the interviews, of course, the kids were told to go and look for problems around their society, right? Look for
Mm-hmm.
any problem, and then when you look for the problem, get into teams and look for how to solve that problem, right? So one of the kids I interviewed, one of the things they did was that they located a cliff, a particular cliff around their area, and when they located that cliff, they discovered that the cliff contained acidified water, right? And that was feeding a community, right? So a community was feeding on part of that water, and they were like, "This is a huge problem. This shouldn't be happening. So what can they do to solve it?" Right? So they were going to come up with a purifying machine. So a purifying machine that will be connected to the cliff, and then that will now be connected to the community, so that what the community is feeding on is actually clean water and no longer the acidified water.
Right.
And so I saw pictures of how they started working on the project, how they started trying to fix that out. I mean, why does school exist if it cannot contribute to the society? What is the whole
Right.
essence of K to 12? How are we really going to say we are contributing to the society if we don't have things like this? So Teresa, because I'm saying it because I want you to talk more about problem based learning and project based learning and what that means for K to 12 and how K to 12 needs to embrace it. What do you think?
I think, what you are saying right there, that epitomizes what we envision K to 12 education to be like. So if we can contextualize learning, if we can provide learners with enough context so that they can connect to what it is that we are talking about, then it is more meaningful. That's what we want. We want meaningful education. We
Hmm,
want effective education.
hmm,
And we do not only want to solve problems, we want to be solution finding. So I think if we want to put that in context, like if you are going to give a learner a problem on a question paper about something happening in Finland, they're not going to have the context. But if you ask them to localize, like,
So okay, I know Teresa is going to be back shortly. This is really getting interesting. Okay, so we're talking about the first risk, and that is disorderly climate transition. And we're saying here that this has to be one of the things that K to 12 is educating the young minds for. Right, we're saying that if this report from the World Economic Forum is saying that there's going to be a lot of climate issues, then we really must embrace this as a problem to be solved, right? Beginning from K to 12. Right? I want to have a generation of young people who understand that this is a problem and a serious one. They understand the impact from a global perspective and they want to start doing something about it. You know, that's what we're talking about, right? So K to 12 has to be redesigned for this reality, right? So that we can have a generation of young people. The truth is that right in those schools, right in those classrooms are innovators, are young people who have the capacity, the potential, right, to create solutions. But you cannot see the birth of an innovator, right, if the emphasis is not innovation. If the emphasis is not innovation, you cannot see the rise of an innovator, right? So it is when you put these kids in an atmosphere where they are busy engaging with problems, that is when you really know what they've got. But if all they are doing is paperwork, boring. When I interviewed those kids from Botswana, they kept on saying that this is unlike the classroom paperwork. It's boring. Sometimes they even sleep in the classroom. They are not enjoying those things, right? So you hinder that innovative side of them from finding expression by just engrossing them with paperwork, do assignment, do all those things. We need to translate. This is how Africa is going to be elevated. This is how Africa is going to be affected positively, right? When we bring problems into K to 12 and begin to address problems in our classroom, right? One of the things that we talk about at EAZY-DIGI is the fact that there has to be a shift from classrooms to workshop to conference room and to exhibition room. So that thing you call classroom must begin to look more like a conference room, a place where your students are comparing context. They are comparing reports from place to place. They are doing high level thinking about solutions. They are putting ideas together and not just a place where kids comes to sit down and all they are doing busy doing is writing notes and no, not in the fourth industrial revolution, right? Education has gone way far beyond that. There's a school I like to check, high tech high, and I see what they are doing, amazing stuff. Checking one of their videos, how they hooked up with some people from Kenya, and the kids were providing a solution to a national problem in Kenya. So amazing, so amazing. This must become the essence of K to 12 right now. So what we are saying is that K to 12 has to be redesigned to focus on all of these challenges. We're saying these challenges must be what our education is all about. If that is not what it's all about, then we don't have a system that can affect our society, right? The hope of every African nation right now is the education system. Our education today is our economy tomorrow. So if you are watching, I'm still here to get Teresa back. If you're watching this session, feel free to share your thoughts on YouTube. Right, I want to hear from you. Right, feel free to ask questions. Feel free to share your thoughts. We'd like to hear from you, please. So this is going to be a kind of serious thing, right? This conversation will not end here, right? So on our YouTube channel, you see the thread. It's going to continue. We're going to keep up with this conversation, you know, up to when we have the conference in April. We have a conference in April, 2 days conference, a 2 day conference, K to 12 2030. K to 12 models for the society and economy of 2030, right? At EasyDigi, we are all about the future. We're a future forward organization. We have a future forward schools network, and we're all about being ready for the future, right? If we're not talking about the future, then what are we talking about, right? That's all about what we're doing at EasyDigi. And so we have that conference coming up April 15th and 16th. And before that conference, we're going to keep having this conversation into that conference because I tell you, that conference is so loaded, right? It's so loaded. K to 12 models for the society and economy of 2030. You really want to see what that is going to be all about. You don't want to miss that conference. Okay, so I don't know how quick I'm going to be able to get Teresa back on the call, but then I hope that today in this session, right, we have been able to bring out a number of issues for K to 12 stakeholders to consider. I hope that we have been able to address a number of issues for school leaders to really get into, to really get on. I know this is a time for school leaders to begin to rethink um, what education is at their various quarters. What do you call education right now? Every revolution comes with its definition of education. The fourth industrial revolution has redefined education, right? It's not about exams any longer. No, no. You see, I always say it, examinations do not unlock potentials, right? If you want to see the potentials in those kids coming out, not examination, right? Switch to exhibition. You will see a release of innovators. You will be shocked to see what these young people can do. But then because we have locked down their mind by exposing them to only fixed realities that they have to take in and powered back through exams, we don't see the real stuff they're made of, right? So we really want to have an education system that is capable of unleashing the potentials that the young people have got in Africa, right? We really want to have that kind of system. Okay, so we're going to wrap up this conversation here, and I'm excited that we've been able to touch one of the risks. So this is the beginning of a series. Like I said, in the next series, we're going to jump on the next one. Right, there are a whole number of points for us to consider. Please subscribe to our channel, stay connected as we keep up with this conversation. All right. So for everyone that has joined so far, or that has connected to the conversation, thank you. We look forward to hearing from you in the YouTube chat. Thank you once again. Thank you for your time. My name is Adebayo, the head of research and chief learning designer at EasyDigi. EasyDigi is a research and training based organization on educational technology and 21st century learning system. We build blended learning systems based on global standards. We work with schools to build blended learning systems based on global standards. That's what we do, and that's why you have even this series of conversation about the Globalx Report and the African education system. So once again, thank you for tuning in. I'll see you in the next series.